For this tubular cast on, start off with a contrasting color waste yarn in a similar weight to your project yarn and a crochet hook in the recommended size. Create your slip knot, place it on the hook, then pick up your knitting needle and hold the yarn so it's running underneath it. Using the thumb and middle finger to hold the tail in place, yarn around the crochet hook clockwise, pull through, bringing up a loop, then bring the working yarn between the hook and needle back around so it's once again under the knitting needle. Continue doing this until you have the required number of stitches on your needle. Yarn around the hook clockwise, pull through, bringing up a loop, then yarn between hook and needle around to the back and repeat. Once you have the required number of stitches on the needle, simply cut the yarn tail and pull through, and this is your provisional cast on that will be pulled out later. Now begin with your main project yarn and work 3 rows of stockinette just as normal, knitting the first row, purling the second, and then knitting the third. After the third row of stockinette, turn the work and locate the vertical bar from the very first edge stitch of your main project yarn. It can be a little tricky to find, you may need to separate it a bit to see, but it's this curve here just at the very edge of the work. But before doing anything with that, slip your first stitch from the left needle as if to purl, keeping the yarn in front. Then making sure the yarn is in front of that edge stitch you located before, pick up that bar with the right needle, transfer both of those stitches back onto the left needle, then purl them together. This locks in the stitch so it doesn't come out when you remove the provisional cast on. Now locate the purl bumps of your main project yarn here along the back of the waist chain. Find the very first one near the edge of the work. It can be a little tight here, and again, you may need to separate it a bit to see, but once you find it, insert the right needle from top to bottom to pick up the stitch, place it onto the left needle with the first leg in front, and knit it normally. Then simply purl the next stitch. Again, locate the next purl bump of your main yarn, insert the needle from top to bottom to pick up the stitch, place it onto the left needle, and knit it normally. Then purl the next stitch. Repeat this, picking up the next purl bump, knitting it, then purling the next stitch until you get to the very last purl bump. Once you get to that very last purl bump, you'll pick it up just as before, placing it onto the left needle, but instead of knitting and then purling, you'll do a slip, slip, purl, so slip 2 stitches as if to knit, transfer both back onto the left needle, and purl them together through the back loop. Pull the working yarn here just a little bit to tighten, and that completes the cast on. Now all you need to do is gently pull out the waist chain, and as long as you've brought up and knit all those little purl bumps on the wrong side and purled the edge stitches, the cast on will remain intact. And now you have a nice tubular edge here, and you can continue on working in pattern.